Kashmir, seemingly a paradise on earth, resplendent with its greenery, glaciers and rivers flowing throughout the region, providing fresh water, electricity, and agriculture for two independent nations, Pakistan and India. A mark of beauty on the face of this earth, and yet it has been the source of deadly conflict in Kashmir for nearly a century. Denied the freedom to choose their own path since 1948, Kashmiris have endured decades of oppression by way of rape, murder, starvation, and many other despicable horrors. From amidst this cloud of chaos and conflict emerged the humanitarian. His Eminence Sheikh Mubarik Jilani, al-Hashimi, wal-Hassani, wal-Husayni, noble prince from the lineage of Banu Hashim, an inheritor of the most honored legacy of Sayyidina Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam, sworn to mercy and the champion for the cause of humanity. He journeyed to America in the early 80s, where, in answer to the prayers of a small community of indigenous American Muslims, he came to live amongst them, becoming their teacher, their guide. These Muslims lacked proper education and lived in relatively poor conditions, yet they were thirsty, they were hungry for true Islam. His Eminence raised them up. He gave them hope. He gave them a sense of self-respect and empowerment by way of teaching them true Islam and through application of basic Islamic law, Holy Quran, and the Sunnah, or the way of the Holy Last Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In time, through his example and by his hands, this community, known as the Muslims of America, has grown to flourish. His students have become successful in all aspects of life, in education, attaining degrees in engineering, medicine, and law, in family life, with 5 generations of Muslims in some families, and in Islamic achievement as well. Having invested much in the American Muslim community, His Eminence, the noble prince, turned his humanitarian efforts back to Kashmir. This noble prince has embarked on a remarkable journey to fulfill the covenant of mercy. It is said, mankind is the family of God, and in this spirit, the humanitarian work still continues, and as recent as September 2019, the Muslims of America rallied for Kashmir, with 5 generations of Muslims taking part.
We should care about what the words on this sign right here, because it is too true. Our community has had threats, has had attempted attacks on us, but subhanAllah, they have never been successful. So we advocate for Kashmir because we know what could have happened to us is what's currently happening to them. So we are with them in body and soul. We are with them, and they are in our du'as, and they are in our cries against this atrocity.
Very, very horrible things happening to Muslims in Kashmir. Kashmir. And we're here in front of the Indian Embassy here in Washington, D.C. We have this wonderful monument of Mahatma Gandhi, who was supposed to be a harbinger of peace. And it even says on the plaque over there how he led India to freedom, yet India has been occupying Kashmir for almost probably longer than I have been alive. I remember coming here as a young man and doing protests like these, and some things are better, but now things have gotten very bad again for the Muslims, and we just want the world, the United Nations, India, someone to pay attention. There are people on the streets dying, and we, the American Muslims and Muslims all over the world, just want to show our support in any way that we can.
Washington, D.C. We are at a rally organized by TMOA, the Muslims of America, to speak out against the genocide and a lot of the brutality that's going on in Kashmir right now. Our message is very clear. Stop the genocide, stop the killing, stop the indiscriminate beatings, the brutality that's going on against the Kashmiri people. Give them their rights that they have had to some degree for the last 40, 50 years. Stop the genocide, stop the killing.
Right now, Kashmir is a majority Muslim area, and the message primarily to India, who touts itself as the largest democracy on earth, is to allow the Kashmiri Muslims to decide their own fate and to decide their own autonomy. And right now, the repressive actions that they're taking, the brutality needs to stop. And the United States needs to support the Kashmiris if we are the leaders of the free world.
I served in the United States Air Force, and during my time in the service, like my brother was just saying, American always, stood as the pillar of democracy, and we see the rights of our brothers in Kashmir, Indian, like you said, they call themselves, one of the biggest supporters of democracy, but yet they are not allowing our brothers their basic human rights. They're killing them, they're slaughtering them.
We're at the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C., and the reason that I'm here is to protest the recent development of Prime Minister Modi and the decision that was against the Kashmiri people, which are primarily Muslim. And I'm here as a Muslim to support the Kashmiri people. I will tell you that this is not something that I take lightly at all. This is something that I've been thinking about since the late 90s when I first heard about it. And I will not ever stop fighting for these people because they are, I consider them kin of mine. I consider them, people that have been oppressed for so long since the mid-1940s, when the UN resolution was passed and completely ignored by the Indians.
And these are two of my daughters, and these are my two granddaughters. What year was that? I went over to Kashmir in 1992. I don't remember how long after that the rally was. So I remember being young and being at the demonstrations and seeing the pictures of the brutal murders, because that's one thing about the Kashmiri killings, that they're not just typical killings. There's severe brutality and hatred expressed in the killings when the Muslims in Kashmir are killed by the Indians. It's a special type of evilness that's displayed. And I vividly remember the images of the victims in Kashmir and how brutal their murders were. And I must have been about 10 years old. It was I think my first Kashmiri rally I attended. I was about 10.
It was in 93. It had to be 93 because I was 14 years old, and I remember also listening to the victim accounts from when my mother had went over to Kashmir and to the different refugee camps, and there was so many people had their stories about the abuses, especially for me as a teenager. I was listening to the stories of different women and how the different ways that they have been abused by the Indian soldiers, and it was just disturbing. From being a child, I just remember it, and that was some 20-something years ago, and it's still ongoing, and that bothers me, that it is continuing, and it has has not ceased all the time.
It has not ceased, and not only that, I thought that it went away, but because it's not in the press and you're not hearing stories of the atrocities being committed, you think that everything went away. But now, with Modi taking away their special statehood on August the 5th, you see his calculated cruelty. It's very, very satanic cruelty, because August the 5th was right around Eid time, so instead of it being a celebration time for the Kashmiris, it was more a time of mourning, because they didn't have anything to celebrate, because they were actually put under siege, or communications taken away. You couldn't, electricity shut down, curfews, if you came out, you were shot. And it's just sick, and we need to, the United States needs to step forward, because at this point they seem to be the only government that can negotiate some type of settlement between the Kashmiris and the Hindu government.
On that day, they embodied His Eminence, Sheikh Mubarik Ali Shah Jilani, Al-Hashimi wal-Hassani wal-Husseini, the champions of the cause of humanity. It was nearly 40 years ago when he saved these American Muslims, the first generation. He embedded in them the way of the chief humanitarian, our most cherished benefactor and king of all creation, the blessed last messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so, this is why we rally.